Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by New Masters Academy, the world's #1 online art school. Feel free to check the link below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Vincent, a background designer for animation.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this podcast is about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
And today we are going to talk about the future of animation post-quarantine.
Yeah, so you at work have, people have been talking about how potentially a lot of these animation jobs...
Wait, let's slow it down first. Let's talk about, just what it's like to work from home.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I briefly talked about this I think in a previous podcast, but I have been working from home like many people in animation, and it's been an interesting experience.
Yeah. And you're lucky. We're
of course,
lucky.
Very
Artists
lucky.
are lucky.
Oh, for sure.
Because we in Hollywood, we were having this discussion about how and not we, because I'm not in it anymore, but you guys in animation, you are basically Hollywood, but you're like the bastard stepchild of animation, where you're not famous, not really, and you're basically just labor, but you also don't really get the recognition of live action people in movies and that kind of thing. But
oh my God, Janet, you're laying down the law so early in this podcast.
Am I? I feel like I'm just stating facts.
Okay, continue.
But you are Hollywood. Animation is Hollywood, and since all you do is draw cartoons all day, it's a desk job. It's a cubicle desk job, and you get to work from home. So ever since quarantine started, all the studios had sent everyone home to work from home.
And this is a lot of tech industries too.
Yeah. Tech. I think a lot of video game people, entertainment in general. Yeah.
And they're starting. We are all. It's been I think about 2.5-3 months since this is all started. Am I going crazy?
I think 3 months now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Going on 4.
But everybody's starting to realize that hey, this is working.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's happy. All the work's being turned in. We're not missing any deadlines, Yeah. And I think that's really neat to see, at least from my end, to see because when this first started, all of us in my show were a little concerned and worried, how is this going to work?
Right. Yeah.
We've never done, we've freelanced before, obviously, but on this scale, everybody is going to, my art director is going to have to talk to the prop people and the, do all of the art director stuff, but online,
yeah.
And I have, every single day I have to communicate with my art director or whoever it is. And it started off a little kind of, oh, this is going to be pretty crazy, but now I'm very used to it.
Yeah, and I think the studios are getting used to it too. And it seems and I feel like this has been kind of rumored for a lot of industries after quarantine, that a lot of companies are considering permanent work from home status for a lot of their employees, since it seems like it's working out fine. And we were talking the other day of what if this was permanent?
What would that look like?
What would that look like in terms of the future of animation and a lot of these industries? What I know a lot of you guys listening are students, art students, or people who already work in animation in Hollywood in general. What would it be like if Hollywood wasn't just in LA anymore?
Yeah. And that's the thing. What if we could work from wherever?
Yeah.
That is... So this podcast, we're not stating anything that's hard fact. We're not predicting any... We're not telling you what is going to exactly happen. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, because we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We're going to have a lot of fun speculating on what's going to happen based on, as much as, we know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be really interesting to see, because I believe, like, I like making predictions.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it's almost like a bet you have with fate.
Yeah.
And like, the more in touch you are with that, the more it's like, I think you probably have a good handle on your worldview. I'd say.
Yeah, and like you have comfort knowing that you can kind of predict and plan your life for the future,
and that you can see these patterns in history.
Yeah,
is really interesting. So we are basically going to talk about what we think that future will look like.
Yeah.
What if we don't have to be here in Hollywood?
Yeah.
To work in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? I thought Hollywood's great, right? And you think Hollywood's really awesome.
Oh, God.
Like, we have, like, In-N-Out, and we have Little Tokyo and Chinatown. It sounds great, but there's a lot of reasons why. If you could make the amount of money you make here, but work from, like, let's say, like, a state with a lot less income tax or no income tax at all.
Yeah, or just lower cost of living.
Yeah.
And like, there are a lot of people who like, Hollywood is where it's a stereotype of where people come here with big hopes and dreams of becoming the next model, actress, whatever. The same thing for animation. Again, like I said, it's basically Hollywood.
Yeah. People far and wide
come
Middle
here
America,
in hopes of
East Coast, wherever, come here in hopes to work for the biggest their dream studio.
Imagine being able to work from where you're from, and not have to come to LA.
Yeah.
And where, like, honestly, I have been thinking about, after I had quit animation and I decided, like, I want to pursue this other career path, there's no reason for me to live in LA. But when we were talking about it, you can't just up and move because your job's here.
Yeah, of course. But I'm starting to see more and more. I mean, it's like we said, it's been about 3 months now. I can see, if we wanted to go over the weekend to Arizona, there's nothing stopping me from working on whatever I need to work on a tablet.
Yeah. Because it's been working, like, if you had picked up and, I don't know, went to Thailand or something, and you were working there, people wouldn't know that right now. Yeah. Like, as long as you turn on your work in like,
what's the difference?
The time.
What difference does it make where you are? And isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and so we were like, oh, that'd be so cool. And then we started talking about how it might not be.
Yeah.
We need to, like, really think this through, because it seems like the studios are a little too eager to want to do this.
Yeah.
And that always, in my mind, smells fishy.
Yeah, there's something afoot.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about basically the pros and cons.
Yeah.
As much as we can surmise, because, like, as you can see, we have eye bags because we were talking about this all night last night.
We were, like, so into this conversation. And
we really wanted to bring you guys along with us.
Yeah. So where
do we start?
Working from anywhere.
Okay. What does that look like? Why is that beneficial for people? Because, the common knowledge is like, oh, I'm from Middle America. I love drawing and painting, and I want to go to LA where, like, people make art and it's entertainment capital of the world. It's going to be fantastic,
Well, because I want to move out of LA so badly. But, I grew up here. I love LA. I was born here. It breaks my heart that I actually feel like moving, because it's so expensive to live here. The income tax is crazy. The traffic is crazy. I have been researching the cost of living in a lot of neighboring states and a lot of other places in general, and I was shocked. I was shocked at how cheaply you could live.
Spell it out for us.
Well, I was looking in Nevada, because it's a state with no state income tax, and and they, in certain areas, you can buy a pretty large house, like 3-4 bedroom house, and the mortgage would cost you like $1,400, and that would be like a studio apartment here in LA.
Oh yeah.
And you would never be able to buy a house for that kind of mortgage here.
And think about that from the artist perspective. How many rooms or places where you could like make art?
Yeah, you have your own personal studio.
If you're multi-talented, you have like a music room. You're gonna have like your painting room. You have your drawing room. You're gonna have your study area. I don't know. Just like I was thinking, like, wow, we could live in a banger place in Nevada, and be able to like have so much space to create.
Yeah, and you're getting paid the same amount as you do living super cheaply in LA.
Right. So, for example, if this were to continue, guys, if let's say a year and a half from now, it's pretty much accepted, because like what's going to happen? No one's going to be like, "Oh, okay, everybody, you can't like not work from home anymore."
Right.
No one's going to I don't think anyone's going to do that.
I don't think so. Yeah.
And you know, like this is a time where like, you know, Janet and I and some of our friends are fortunate enough to that, like, you know, our families are safe and some of our friends are safe, but we know people who have been affected by it, and we can't just as an industry be like, "Oh, everybody come back to work."
Yeah.
And whatever, you know, we have to be I think we have to be a little bit more cautious
and empathetic to people's
definitely.
Feelings and the stuff they're going through. You don't know how badly some people have been affected.
Right. So point being, I don't think there's going to be a great retraction of this. Like everybody's going to go back to work, like forced to go back to work. So this is probably going to be the norm. Yeah. So let's say it is.
Yeah.
What would happen?
So even you'd think that like to move to like a cheaper state or wherever you want to live and live on nothing and then save all your money would be great, but that's only if the studios continue paying you the same.
Right. So if they paid me, let's just say around $2,000 a week, let's just say. And you and I lived in a place in Nevada where like how much would we pay a month?
I would like a 3-4 bedroom house, so like a $1,400 a month. Wow. Mortgage. That's
just like barely a week's worth of my work to afford the house.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of stuff. Like, think of the advantages.
Yeah. Whoa. But
it's so deep.
There's no reason, like, the reason why I brought up, like, the studios seem like they're a little bit too eager to do this is because, first of all, they have been saving so much money during this time because they don't have to have you come in and use their computers and Cintiqs and air condition a warehouse size
to be
building.
Able to turn off the lights in several, office spaces is a lot of money that they're saving.
Yeah. So when people decide like, oh, I'm going to, like, let's say a year from now, like a huge portion of Hollywood is basically all over the world, all over the United States, they can justify saying like, oh, we're not going to pay you as much because you have a cheaper cost of living and labor is we will go where the labor is cheaper.
What? They would never do that. They don't do that to anybody, right?
Oh my
they
God.
Would never. They're such nice people.
Already do.
Ooh.
To the overseas animators. So, I don't know how much you guys know this, but it's pretty common knowledge in Hollywood that animation isn't done here anymore in the United States. Not really. It's done overseas in Canada, Asia, the Philippines, Korea, wherever. And it's done... The reason why animation has gone overseas is because it was cheaper to outsource. Just like a lot of our jobs in the United States, it was cheaper to outsource these jobs to wherever the labor was cheapest, which is in those areas. And what has happened is these third-party studios, I think is what they're called.
That's an appropriate way. That's definitely what it is.
They are paid nothing, and treated poorly. And basically
Oh, that's pretty vague. Do you have any examples?
I mean, I would call it like slave labor. Like they don't pay enough. People have to work really long hours, and they're not treated very well because, when you can blame someone else for something that is your problem, because like outsourcing is like they can do only as good of a job as you tell them to, as you lead them to. So a lot of the times, a lot of faults are blamed towards the overseas studios, where it could just be like, well, you didn't train them well enough, or you didn't explain what you wanted, or you just didn't communicate very well, or take the time to lead them. And that's how I feel like a lot of people I know in animation, and like I've witnessed, it's just they see the overseas studios as less than, and that's how they explain it. And it's never like their fault for not being clear, or their fault. And who knows, maybe there's some justification for that, but it's also like we're all on the same team. It's kind of weird that we are so high and mighty here in Hollywood, and just assuming that people in the overseas studios to be not as good because they're not American, or they're not Hollywood, they're not here in Hollywood. And it's always bothered me whenever I saw it. But yeah, so I would use the overseas animators as an example of what would happen to us if we suddenly dispersed all over the country because work from home is permanent.
Yeah, I remember when you told me this point, I was like, uh-oh. Because I was in the camp of like, what? They're not going to treat us poorly even, like, because I can't see that happening.
Yeah.
Like, I can't see that happening
like, why
as
would
of
they?
right now.
Yeah, why would they cut costs? Well, like,
but I don't know about later. And then when you had this point about like, but they treat the other overseas studios like that.
Yeah.
What makes you think that they're not going to treat you like that in the future if you're a out of Hollywood employee?
Exactly. And it also, another point that I had for the working out of state thing too is this is something I learned about recently, that all different states in the United States are right to work states and some aren't. And that it basically means the right to work states, you have the choice of being in the union and not being in the union.
Oh.
Whereas like here in California, what happens is because there is something called the Animation Union, which I don't know how much we need to explain, but we'll explain because I didn't really know anything about it.
Yeah, we should probably explain for people who don't know.
So the Animation Union is a workers' union, and they represent us creative people in animation and Hollywood in general. And most of the LA studios are in this union. So Disney, DreamWorks, there's like a whole list on their website. And when you get hired at any one of these studios, you have to join the union. And I think it's you have to. Like you can't. There are some.
That's what I was asking. I was like, wait a second. I mean, like I know most people jump on the opportunity to be a part of the guild, but I never thought that like, oh wait, what if somebody didn't want to? And I asked you like, wait, what if somebody didn't want to? Is that a thing that can happen?
So it's a thing, and there are loopholes to not join the union, but for the most part, you kind of have to here in order to be hired. And in the right to work states, you have that choice. You don't have to. And the reason being is the union has an initiation fee and charges dues. So for me, I think...
Oh, so you're explaining why people wouldn't want to be?
Yeah, okay. Because if every single... you pay dues every quarter, so every 3 to 4 months, you pay whatever your dues are, and you have a really, really expensive initiation fee. And this is for as long as you work, basically. Yeah. Every few months, you pay your dues.
Yeah, it was a bummer because this happened to you and this happened to me when I first got my animation job where it was covered by the union.
Yeah.
For a moment there, it felt like I was earning money.
Yeah.
And then a portion of it was taken for my living expenses.
Yeah.
A portion of it was taken for my loans.
Uh-huh.
And then another portion of it was taken for the union.
Yeah.
And that was really tough.
Yeah.
That was a really tough time.
And you have a hard time, like, understanding what the union is for, but they're supposed to be there to protect you, your workers' rights, and they've negotiated some certain things for you that are just kind of given to you when you walk through the door and you are hired at
like
whatever
I said,
studio.
like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
And so they'll that they have negotiated things like our healthcare benefits or retirement benefits and stuff like that. And that was all done through the guild, and then once you're in it, you get those things because it was already negotiated for you. You didn't have to go and like negotiate with the company or whatever. One of the things like that happens that I actually had no idea until much later on. I don't think anyone at school told me this, but the Animation Guild has an initiation fee. If you are not in the guild and you join a animation studio, someone hires you, and you are now required to be in the union, you have to pay an initiation fee, which is proportional to your income. So if you get a really high salary, you're one of the lucky ones to get a really nice paying job.
Right off the bat.
Yeah. Right off the bat. They will take that amount and your initiation fee will be higher. If you get hired as an entry-level job and you're not that high paying, your initiation fee will be lower. So my initiation fee was something like $2,800 or something like that.
And you got hired about a year and a half or a year before me?
Yeah.
Right? So mine was around 3,000.
Yeah.
By the time I got hired in, the first job that was covered in union.
Yeah. And then your dues every single quarter were higher than mine.
Yeah. That was tough.
Yeah. And so it's a lot, especially like you have, I'm assuming you have a lot of debt because you had graduated like some kind of college and you're young. So you hadn't paid off those debts yet because you're trying to find work.
It's most of the people in animation.
Yeah. So you have loans to pay for, and now you have suddenly this initiation fee thing that you have to pay for as well with your income, your new income that you're not used to.
So you could see why I could see why if someone wanted to, they could move to one of these states and be like, I'm all for the work, but not for the other thing.
Yeah.
Right? I see.
Yeah. They could be like, well, I don't want to join the union because I don't want to pay this really expensive initiation fee. I can negotiate my own stuff. So then it becomes a little bit more difficult too because the animation union is a local union. People were complaining, like Pixar, for example, they're not covered by the union because they're in the Bay Area. They're in Northern California. And only the studios in LA are in the union. So if you go to another state, are you then in the union? Or like it's the same studio, but you're
same
not...
Same studio, same work, same everything.
Yeah. So that's where it becomes complicated because it's like, oh, sweet, right to work. Well, there's a lot of pros and cons for right to work
Can you explain
with. Well, I mean, it becomes kind of a political argument about if you're for unions or not for unions. If everyone is all over the state, how is the union going to exist, period, unless it becomes a national union? What if you decide you want to live in Thailand? Right. The union can't possibly, you can't be covered by the union if you're going to live in Thailand.
How could they even monitor you?
Yeah, exactly.
How are they monitoring you right now?
Yeah.
How is it possible? I'm sure maybe one of you listening right now is listening from Hawaii, working on your TV show, whatever it is. Whoa, you're way ahead of us. Yeah. But yeah, like I don't see why, like at this point, why we have to be tethered here if this is going to continue.
Yeah, but the whole union thing, it just seems like the union has a lot of problems on its own now. And now quarantine and work from home has complicated that. If it becomes permanent, then the union so fun fact, if you guys don't already know, the union has negotiated this thing for us, for you guys, not for me, you guys.
We're going to talk about this, huh?
Where there's this thing called new media, and it just means like streaming services, shows. So any show that is on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, they're called new media shows. And basically, a while ago, the union negotiated that, the studios can pay the artists about 25 to 30% less because it's a new media show. Because when I moved from DreamWorks to Disney, my pay went up 30%.
Wait, what are you saying? That they see streaming shows as lesser than?
No, but that's what if you work on a streaming show, I guess that's what they're saying, that your work is worth less on a streaming show than it is on a normal production like TV show. So I've been listening to Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, and this book is such a motivational book. What this book is these two Navy SEAL commanders, basically, they teach you what it's like to be a leader in the battlefield and how it translates to the business. And I don't know about you guys, but I have been feeling a little lack of motivation recently, and this audiobook has been the cure. There's nothing like a Navy SEAL telling you the stakes that makes you so motivated to like get to work. So I highly recommend it, and if you want to listen to it, you can listen to it over on Audible, and we have an Audible trial for you, audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast, where you can get a free trial. You will get 1 free audiobook, 2 free Audible original audiobooks, so 3 audiobooks in total, and it's gonna last you a while. So sign up. It helps us at no extra cost to you. It is an affiliate link, and I highly recommend that book. Check it out. audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast.
Something that you would see on cable,
on network
basically.
TV. Yeah.
Whoa.
And so I've always been really confused by that, because it's the same work. Like in any other industry, it doesn't. If you're a director, you're a director.
Well, you should talk about your experience at DreamWorks, because that was mostly streaming stuff, right?
Yeah. And
like it's not like you did any less work.
No, it was the same work.
Yeah, of course.
And so it's the same job. Why should you get paid less if it's for a streaming TV show or a production TV network TV production TV show? So when the union is trying to fight to get that knocked off, so that all shows are basically treated equally. You don't get to pay anyone less because of it. But if everyone is all spread out everywhere, the union can easily argue that, like, since your cost of living is lesser, we don't need to like get rid of this thing.
Well, let's talk about some positives.
Okay.
The thing that I enjoy is that I get to be actually, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I'll explain. But first of all, it's really good that I get to, wake up, get ready, have my morning routine, and then go to our studio space and work.
Yeah. And
I don't have to deal with traffic. Don't have to deal with LA bullshit. I could just get up, go to work, finish my work, and be done with it. It's really great. But a lot of it too is I really prefer working in-house. I would be one of those people who would probably tell the studios when they're finally allowing people to come back that sign me in, I'm ready to go back, because I prefer the face-to-face interactions with people. I just like the clarity when I'm sitting down with an art director and whatever they're saying is super clear, and I get to ask them questions if I needed to. But as of right now, I can see the benefit for people who, especially like you don't really want to deal with the people. Yeah.
I think it's really exhausting for someone like me to deal with the people. I am someone that really enjoys working from home. But when you first started working from home, I noticed this thing that went completely ignored by everyone.
What? Oh, right.
Mm.
Because I working from home means like I have my own Cintiq, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I have a really, really nice one. I have it's not the really, really big one. It's
Yeah.
the 22 Pro, whatever. And
Yeah.
then I have my Mac, which it's getting a little long in the tooth. It's from college, but it's still kicking.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working with.
Mm-hmm. And like regardless, when you start working from home, you're using your own equipment.
Right.
You're using your own Cintiq, like you said. You're using your own MacBook or PC.
I'm also paying for my own Photoshop because,
yes. Software.
I have my own personal Photoshop thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's helpful to have.
Yeah. So you're paying for your own software and your own electricity bill. It gets really hot here in LA over the summer.
Right. I do miss how cold the studios are. They get so cold.
I really don't like it. Little tiny girls like me need to wrap themselves in blankets at work in order to work. But I was like, you're paying for all of that.
Yeah.
The studios used to be paying for all that when you were working in the studio. And then you were like,
yeah. I was like,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So what we're basically talking about is basically how freelancers have to basically charge for whatever appliances they use.
Yeah, an equipment fee.
Equipment fee, that's right.
And I was like, so these past 3 months, you use your own electricity, your own equipment, your own everything, but they didn't pay you any different. They didn't pay you more. No one negotiated anything, and no one knew what was happening when we were all sent to work from home. So, if going forward this becomes a thing where this is permanent, since no one has brought it up, you realize how much money they're saving to not have to run their computers and their copier machines and their Cintiqs. And you realize a lot of these companies don't own their equipment. So it means they can just, if this is long term, get rid of all the rentals, the computer rentals. You know how much money they're saving because you are picking up the difference, the individual employee, and yet no one. I don't think that the animators, the people who work in animation in Hollywood, you guys aren't going to do anything about that because you didn't even realize.
I didn't even realize that was a thing that I should have been looking out for. So when did you start thinking about this?
From the minute you guys were sent home.
Really?
Yeah.
So when I was like, okay, babe, it's like they told us you're going to work from home now. We're going to see how it goes.
Yeah.
That's when you were like, I see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I was like, so everyone's going to become freelancers. And then when I thought about it in that way, I was like, so people who don't have their own computer need to buy their own computer or something, get the software, use their own. And I was thinking about how, man, when you're working from home, our power bill is going to go up. And I immediately went, because
it did.
Yeah.
Right. Oh man.
Because we're blasting the AC when it gets 100 degrees here, or I mean, just running a Cintiq all day, a computer all day.
That's a lot of juice.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's one way that they're going to screw you.
Are there more that you can think of on the top of your head?
So I have a story about why I think this is going to come to fruition.
Okay. Okay.
When I was working at Disney, when I got there, I think I told half of this story before in a previous podcast. I forget which one by now. But when my very first day, I come into work and they bring me to my cubicle and they had this little worksheet ready for me that gives me directions on how to log into the work computer. And these directions were outdated because when I read them, it said, use my desk phone to call the IT or whatever, and then you dial this number is how you set up your password and how you log into the computer. I look around my desk, no desk phone to be found. And I was so confused and a little frazzled because whoever brought me to my cubicle had left and I didn't know anyone. I didn't know who to talk to ask. I can't log into my computer to do my work. So I run around and someone saves me because they clearly know I'm lost, and they take me to my show secretary, and she has a phone, and she lets me use her phone. And I ask her, like, how come I don't have a phone? And then she's like, oh, it's because a few months ago Disney decided to cut corners a little bit, cut their budget, and they took away all the artists' phones. Because again, these companies, they don't own their equipment, they rent it. So all these phones...
I had never known that. When you were talking about them renting the computers, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? What? I thought they bought the computers for themselves.
No. Well, maybe some of it, but like things like copy machines and phones, most corporations, they rent their equipment, yeah. It's similar with schools too. Like our schools don't rent our equipment. Yeah. And they don't own. So she's told me because the phones cost like $100 something per month to rent for the studios, they decided like, oh, artists don't need phones. Little do you know, like whenever your computer goes wrong, like messes up, or you need to contact someone like from a different part of the company, or you need to log on your first day, and like basically any problems you have with IT or whatever is handled on the phone. And let's say an artist suddenly their computer craps out, or Photoshop isn't working anymore, or whatever, they need to get it fixed, and you need a desk phone for that.
And how did you get the attention of IT when your computer would crap out or there's a problem?
So what you do is like you send in like a digital ticket via email, but then they still haven't updated it yet because the way they contact you is through your phone. So it asks you how do we contact you? What's your desk phone? And every time I have to enter my the show secretary. She's not my secretary. She's like the secretary of like, I don't know, 50 people. And she has better things to do than to be my phone. Yeah. You know what I mean? So every time I would have computer problems, I couldn't just fix it. I couldn't just have the autonomy to be able to like deal with this very small fire on my own. I had to go ask the secretary, hey, I have a problem with my computer. They're going to call you. And then you're going to have to get me. And I have to come to your cubicle to use your phone. Stand there like an idiot. Like her cubicle is here. I don't want to be in her space. So I'm like grabbing the phone. And I'm like... Because it's still like a corded phone. That's how dated it is. And I have to like wait usually on the like helpline and try to not be in it because I'm standing in the hallway now. And... it was just so ridiculous. There's so many times that happened because, you know, technology can mess up sometimes and you gotta fix things. Or like things like changing my address. I had to do that, this weird dance every single time. I had to do simple things like changing my address and something went wrong in the website, and oh god, it just drove me insane. So like all to save some money. And mind you, this is Disney we're talking about. $1 million corporation couldn't give me a desk phone because our cell phones they're not connected through the company system, and we can't do that. So I was just kind of like, really? Really, Disney? You took away my phone to save $100 a month.
Well, my studio is also a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar studio, and we still have phones.
I mean, DreamWorks had phones. I was just...
Is that weird? Isn't it?
These little bureaucracy things really, like, grinded my gears back then. I was just like, give me a phone. This is ridiculous. I really have to waste hours of my day doing this whenever a problem arises, really.
So this is why, like, what makes you think... So when you explain this to me, I was like, that's right. What makes you think that they're
not going to cut corners where they can?
Right.
It's like if no one's bringing this up, because I saw absolutely, like, you know, I still have friends in the industry, you guys. Like, my friends don't just disappear. And I didn't see anyone mention like, so are we gonna be compensated for using our own electricity and what? Nothing. You guys were all just very like, this is great. I'm gonna work from home.
That was me.
Yeah, because that was you. Oh, because that was you.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, yeah, you guys are not gonna get anything done because you don't even know it's a problem.
And I'm hearing this and I'm thinking like I have no single fucking clue as to how to
bring it up. Exactly.
So I guess this is like
how it's gonna be.
We brought it up. This is my way of saying, hey, okay.
You guys in animation, I don't have to deal with this problem because I'm not in it anymore. But you guys, maybe you guys should bring it up if this is gonna be halfway kind of permanent in the near future. If otherwise, it's like that's your loss. That's your income they're taking away, not mine.
Free money, they say.
Yeah.
They call it. Yeah, free money is on the table. People are going to take it.
Like during this time, the companies will be so eager to change because we're not saying that these corporations are evil. I don't think anyone's out there to like personally hurt you.
We are not the corporations are the devil and all that stuff.
Yeah.
No. We know these people.
Yeah.
They're just want to save money.
Yeah. Business people want to save money.
They want to save money.
It's not like an evil thing.
And that's their prerogative.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe for us, like if you're working in animation, wouldn't your prerogative be to ask for more money?
Yeah, it's like a give and take.
Right.
So
Dance.
I'm just saying, like, they will be all too eager to cut costs where they can. One of them is like,
you should be all too eager to be like, I demand to be paid more.
Or like I want. These are things that you guys used to handle.
Right.
It should not be my responsibility. And because it's like this change is kind of so exciting. Like if it were me, I'd be like, ooh yeah, I get to work from home. I think people need to slow down and like think a little bit about like, okay, now that things are changing,
how are they gonna try to fuck us?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god.
Sorry, there's no other way of saying
they're
it.
Really, yeah. I think in the midst of change, it's very easy for people to like take a little bit and take a little bit. Right. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and this is actually something that I had been thinking about for a while because I don't know how much you guys know about the industry and how much you keep up with Hollywood and in particular animation, but your contracts have been negotiated or renegotiated recently, but nothing too much has changed. But there was talks of striking.
Oh, right. There was.
And that's normal. Like, with the teachers strike, the actors strike, the writers strike. It's like whenever contracts are being renegotiated, that's always kind of a possibility. And, it was to get rid of this thing where, like, new media is, you have less budget, you are paid less, whatever. I don't know the specific details of it. And the union didn't end up striking because of a lot of reasons, but this is something one of our teachers in art school was telling us about, that like if we want something, we need to have skin in the game and we need to demand it. And he basically told us, like, back in when he was going to school, I think it was the 80s, or even earlier, I can't remember, but he said art school, secondary education, always higher education has always been expensive, and it's always been getting more and more expensive, and people were always unhappy about it. And at the time, his class was so angry about tuition money, they went on strike. They told the schools, we're not gonna go to class, we're not gonna pay for tuition, all as a group, because unless you keep tuition the same, like, stop increasing it so crazy. And at the time when we were going to school, it was very expensive. I think it's like in the $20,000 per semester now to go to these art schools. Before, I think when we were going, it was like 15,000 a semester, something like that. And everyone was complaining about it. And he was like, that's what we did, and it worked. All you guys have to do is go on strike and force the school to not raise tuition, because they shouldn't be raising it this high every single semester. And you know what happened? We were a bunch of millennials about it, and we did nothing. And our tuition just got higher and higher and higher until, like, at this point, people are paying, what is it, $20,000 a semester to take Zoom classes.
Yikes.
Yeah, so I don't know. It translates from, what we're willing to take when we're tolerate in school. And, we as art students were just herded over to, our jobs, and the same exact thing was happening in the jobs. Like, we were told, like, maybe we should strike to get better benefits or whatever, and then nothing happens. But yeah, food for thought, you guys, because that's not really my problem anymore. And this is something that I would be very excited about. The fact that if I got to work from home full time, I don't think I would have quit animation like I did. If I had that option, and one of the biggest reasons is because of the Hollywood bullshit. I wouldn't have to deal with that anymore. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's, again, animation is Hollywood. Whether, I think when you're in art school, you develop this kind of view of animation like it's not Hollywood. Like, in your head, you do know that rationally it is Hollywood, but you think it's because it's a bunch of artists, people who draw. We're not the scummy, like, the
smarmy Hollywood types that you'd see in, like, those critiques on Hollywood.
Yeah, but we totally are. You totally are. You animation people, like it is, like, when people say in, like, why I quit my job at Disney, that, like, oh, I totally knew this was everything it was going to be because it was it's Hollywood. It's like, yes, but when you're an art school student, you kind of delude yourself and tell yourself that it's not, because we're just painters, we're just people who draw cartoons. Why would we act like that? You look at the people you're surrounded by in art school or wherever you're learning your craft at, and you're like, oh, we wouldn't act like that, but oh my god, it's the exact same. People, kiss up to each other to get hired, and people, like, intentionally, you never know who is actually your friend and who is just making a connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it totally is. And, I know there's an aspect to that in all workplaces, but there's a reason why Hollywood is known for this. You know what I mean? Like, I've had other jobs before. The level of ass kissing is on a different level in Hollywood.
You've worked for what? Theme parks and graphic design.
Yeah, and
right?
like in high school, I've worked like retail jobs.
Right.
Like I've worked at Claire's in the mall. I know what it's like. And like, yes, in a way, there is an aspect of this kind of weird Hollywood smarminess in a lot of other workplaces and industries, which is why those stories in movies are so relatable, because everyone can relate. Like, it's all kind of gross and smarmy, no matter where you go.
Get Shorty.
Mm-hmm.
That show is a great example.
But
the swamp that is Hollywood.
Yeah.
The other swamp. What is it? What's the saying that politics is just Hollywood for ugly people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Animation too. And it's just, like, look at us. We're not exactly
a goddess.
Yeah, I'm not a goddess. I'm not Scarlett Johansson. And so, yeah. People like me and you who were born and raised in LA, there's a certain amount of that is that we're just like so like I roll my eyes, I hate it. It's exactly why I quit, you know? And other people take it better than me. But like imagine, and if I could imagine a world where like I have a certain tolerance level for that kind of stuff. If I could work from home, I wouldn't my mental health, for lack of a better word, my happiness level would be so much higher, and that maybe I wouldn't have quit. Maybe like this would have been better for someone like me. But as much as I can complain about Hollywood bullshit. And by the way, if you don't believe me, if you are just as deluded as I was when I got hired or whatever, go listen to Joe Rogan. He, in his newest podcast with Will Burr, they do such a great job of making fun of exactly how Hollywood is. And honestly, any toadies who want to like come at me, like I'm still part of the Animation Guild Facebook group. Like, you all agree with me, please. It's like behind closed doors. But
let's shit on her outside.
I know.
But then be like, yeah, behind closed doors.
I don't get it. But as much as I can complain about that, there is a certain kind of importance with communication. A lot of people like being able, like you said, like you like being face to face with your boss, because like I feel like so much is lost in translation when
it's definitely tougher. I like the work relationship that we had, and I was working with this guy for like almost 8 months before we had to work from home, and I really liked the chemistry we had. And then I mean, like the whole email thing is just sometimes it get lost, like some things get lost in translation, sometimes some things get missed, just like human error stuff that you have to really, really try your best to pay attention to. But it would be nice having the luxury of going like, oh, I'm done, or should it be this or this? Okay, I'm gonna get up and go to that office and then find out. It's just that easy. But it's just little things like that.
And like even on a bigger scale, something much more, I think, insidious or something to look out for is like, let's say we get what we want and we can like move wherever to live and to work from. What again, you compare it to like the overseas animators and how they're treated because of lack of communication. I've seen people who are not great leaders and communicators themselves blame overseas animators and studios for their, like, if the animation comes back and it's not so good, they blame them for these mistakes and not themselves because they weren't clear with their communication. They weren't clear about what they wanted or whatever. That can happen too if you guys decide to like go all over the country. People will blame what they can blame as excuses for their lack of accountability, I guess. So like communication, it can be as simple as like, oh, I like being face to face with someone. It also makes it so like they can't really blame you,
right,
if you didn't, like, if
we
you,
talked about
we talked about it.
We had an agreement. That's why I love face to face conversations, especially in collaborating with art, whether it's music or drawing or whatever it is, because everything is clear. I just heard you, and if I had any problems with what you said, I would make it known. You know?
And there's a lot of like body language stuff and eye contact stuff that happens too, where like it's hard to hate someone or be angry at someone when you've like had this discussion, and there's a lot that goes into like communicating with someone face to face, and like all of that. Like I've even seen like when you've started working from home, if there's any like mistakes or whatever, I think it's a lot easier for you to blame yourself for the lack of communication that led up to like deadlines being missed or whatever, or for you to like get frustrated, not you, like the royal you,
Okay.
to get frustrated at your boss or whatever for like not being communicative, or on the other side, your boss, your art director, whoever, getting really frustrated at their employee, their underling, whatever, because they didn't like, oh, why didn't they listen to me? But like maybe they didn't, like there's this lack of communication that's happening. And like I see that happening in a pretty bad scale with like the overseas animators. Imagine like work from home is like extended permanently, and the animation artists are like on the East Coast, wherever you are. That kind of miscommunication and bad teamwork, I guess, and bad leadership can lead to some really toxic work environments and like problems that could arise too.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is just simply because of the lack of communication.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of think all sorts of reasons why this person missed this note or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it is really nice to be able to talk to somebody about what you need to do.
That's why I think like this is not something that I would like if I were in animation. There's also the option of like, oh, you come in occasionally, like you work from home most days, and then every once in a while you meet with your boss or whatever. You have meetings, basically. You come in for meetings, and to get like an update. But then that means like you're still gonna have to live in California.
Yeah.
The whole point of wanting to be able to work from home is that you can be anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. What are your predictions, like your end predictions of like what you think is gonna, how it's gonna be from now on?
My prediction is, as best as I can predict, is things will continue the way they are, and pretty soon, God willing, by end of summer, maybe some studios will allow people like me to like go back because it's more comfortable for them, or maybe they don't have the proper the equipment that could optimize whatever it is at home, so they want to work from the studio. That's going to be a thing, but it's not like no one's going to be like, oh, everybody, let's go back to how it was.
Right.
I think the studios are going to be like, and as we talked about, like they have no reason to do that because they have every incentive, because they're able to save so much that people, they don't have to leave the lights on or whatever for people who are working from home. So that's going to continue, and whether or not, because it is pretty crazy. Like if we all, let's say 2 years from now, cross our fingers that like this isn't a deal, like a big deal anymore. There are vaccines. This was so 2020, right? Let's just say that's happening. Then we have to have a discussion of like, there are people like you who, if you want to get the optimum amount, like the best work out of this type of person, they like to work from home. Yeah. And what makes them really happy is if they could stay with their family, because that's where they're raised. Well, I feel like I'm sure there's a lot of people not willing to admit it, but there's a lot of people in animation, I'm sure, who would be thrilled to be able to just do what they do here, but in the comfort of their like hometown. Yeah. Like how could you not? From
wherever you are. Yeah. From.
Yeah, of course. And so there's going to have to be a discussion that needs to be had when that time comes, and that discussion, there should be a little bit of conflict, there should be a little bit of like give and take. There should be a little bit of like it's only fair. Right. Like these things, I'm sure there are a million more things than just like leaving the lights off now that you're not there, or, not needing to pay for your equipment or whatever it is. I'm sure there's a million ways they're saving money while we're sleeping. Yeah. Yeah, so there needs to be a discussion that needs to be had. And like, I'm trying to be realistic. Yeah. I don't think anything's gonna happen. I'm trying to be realistic. I'm trying to like think of all the people and all the people I know. Yeah. And I don't think I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think us millennials are gonna let the studios do whatever they want to us, to you.
Oh, yeah, you're not in it.
Yeah, I'm not in it. I'm not one of you guys. So my predictions are, well, I have my hopes, and I have my what I think is actually going to happen.
And what I said is what I think is going to happen.
Right.
That's as much as I could see.
Yeah. So for me, it's not necessarily my hope. It's like what I want, what I would want if I had everything to, like, if I chose everything and all the cards would land where they are. What I would want is, and I'm thinking for you specifically, because I'm thinking selfishly for myself as well, because I want to move to a cheaper area so that I can really have less stress involved with money and keeping the business running and afloat and everything. It would be nice to not live in a place that takes so much income tax from you and also costs an arm and a leg to live in. So, and we've been to a lot of these states too, and we love it there. We love Arizona, we love Nevada, and we want to visit like Texas and all the states. We actually want to visit all the states. Yeah. And I would love to move there so I can have I don't have to make as much in my business in order to live and to survive, and that like calms me. I can like really enjoy
and you can really explore.
Yeah, I can enjoy
the freedom,
act of making art and doing the things that I love.
Right.
But it would mean that like you can't be tied to Hollywood, or you jump all in to the business with me. And I always thought like, one day down the line, if Honey and Absinthe ends up being something that can support the both of us.
Oh, we made an agreement that once this makes as much money as me, we're gonna talk about
how much you make.
How much I make, yes, obviously, but like me leaving.
Yeah, so that like if it just would mean like there'd be two of us,
right? And
imagine the amount of damage that we could do to like how much content we can make and how much cool stuff we can make now that there are like two of us.
Be pretty dope.
And
to be able to do that from a place where there isn't much income tax, or a place where the house that we bought is humongous, but like
it costs so
much
much less than in California. And it's something that like I mean I read about this in the 4-Hour Work Week, and Ken Burns talks about it in his masterclass on Masterclass.
Yeah.
And he talks about like, you know, there are people like him who are they don't want to make like crazy action movies. They're really passionate about these
projects,
like public TV funded by the government or grants, and like it's art basically. Documentaries that he's really passionate about, and it's not like these documentaries can make him millions and millions of dollars. Like he's not rich by any means. Yeah. But he talks about like he's given up, he's sacrificed his way of life, or he's adjusted his way of life to be able to accommodate his passions. Right. So I forget where he lives. He lives in like a cheaper state in the United States, and he has a very modest way of living. And I thought like that's so that's kind of the life I would like. Yeah. To not like that's like he said, that's the price of freedom, of how much you're willing to give up in terms of lifestyle in order to do the thing that you love. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. But it would mean that like you can't be tied to Hollywood. So this is something that I was like, oh, this is probably like years down the line.
Interesting thing too. I think there are a lot of people who would be more comfortable with this than us, because it's a harder decision for us because we were raised here. Yeah. It's going to be very difficult. I feel like it's in the cards one day we're going to have to like move to somewhere cheaper because we want to buckle down on a project, let's say. Yeah. It's going to be really hard for me to say goodbye for now.
Yeah, because our family's here. Our friends are here. Like
our favorite places to eat are here.
Yeah, our childhood is here. So it's tough to, I think, even though as badly as I want to save money, it's hard for me to really commit to that decision.
Isn't it wild that like people from like, other states are like coming here, clamoring here for the whole Hollywood experience, and the people who live in Hollywood are like, please just like allow me to live in a state that's a little bit cheaper so I can really
me dry.
make like some money, please.
And so selfishly, I was like, oh God, I guess I can't have that anytime soon. I just gotta be patient and build this business and, let the cards fall where they fall and just work as hard as I can. But when the possibility of working from home permanently for you became a thing, I realized like, oh, what if we can do this? Because if we can move somewhere cheaper, like it would accelerate so many things. Like there'd be less stress on me. Like any stress that comes with money is just bad. And it would give you a lot of peace of mind too, because it's like when you're in California, for the amount of money you pay for a space, for the same amount of money somewhere else, you can have a much more better space to live and work. You can have your own studio where you can have privacy from me or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it would be really nice because, when I'm working day in, day out, I've been fantasizing of having that old college learning experience of taking maybe a year off or whatever to just really enjoy the artist life of painting and going out and drawing in cafes. And like, of course, people do that outside of work, but I want to make that my job. What if that was my job? What if that's just how I spent my time?
Yeah, retired life, basically.
Yeah, like that would be so dope. And like to be able to live in a state that is so much more affordable for us can grant me that dream. Because that, it's really interesting. And at least in my career, I've had so many different like dreams. When I was at college, I was like, oh, okay, so I want to work I just want to be able to draw and make money doing drawing creative stuff. Right. And then I managed to get that. And then I was like, oh man, now I really want to work. I'm at this creative job, but it's not exactly what I want to do. I want to do cartoons. So I want to do cartoons. I want that so bad. Yeah. Finally got the cartoon Hollywood job. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of just want to live in the woods and paint. How about that? Like, I kind of just want that. And that's where I am at right now. Yeah. I really just want to just enjoy my life.
Yeah. I think that's secretly a lot of animation professionals' dream.
I mean, there's so many times where I've heard like certain painters, like I'm sure I don't remember which, but like they talked about like they took like a sabbatical or whatever it is to just fuck off and paint. Yeah. And doesn't that sound amazing?
Yeah. There are times
that's amazing.
where like technically that's what's happening with me right now, but I am so intense about work that I can't let myself have a sabbatical, even though like this is what it's supposed. I should be enjoying myself like that, but
you have to go full Janet.
Yeah, I have to go full Janet and be like, no, I gotta be the best. But yeah, so what I would like is to be like for everything to stay the same, like your income, your exactly like how things have been actually, where like you've been working from home, things are very smooth, the studios aren't trying to fuck you or screw you in some kind of way that we're not aware of. It, like everything it's basically like it's like you're working from work. It's just from home. Nothing has changed.
And it's like, I mean, like what would happen? You have a happy employee.
Yeah.
What happens to happy employees? They work hard.
Yeah. Like, don't mess with that.
Yeah.
Maybe don't mess with that.
Maybe don't mess with it. Maybe you guys got a good thing coming. And maybe if these employees ask for X, Y, and Z, maybe it behooves you to give
it to them.
Yeah, give it to them.
Things like I think so. What I think will end up happening is
so this is like that was like best wish.
Yeah, this is what I want. Everything to stay the same except we can move wherever we want.
But this is realistic.
Yeah. This is what I think is actually going to happen. I think it's going to be a blend. Like, I don't think things are binary. Like, everyone's required to go back to work, and everyone is required to work from home. We don't have studio spaces anymore. I don't think it's either or. I actually think it's going to be a mix of the two. I think the people who will want to stay working from home will continue to stay working from home. And I think there will be people who choose to go into work and work from work. Similar to actually like smaller production studios, actually, where they have a facility, like an office space, for all the in-house artists, but the in-house artists are like fewer, and there's like optional like desk spaces for freelancers, and I think there will be people who want to work from home for the most part, but want to come in every now and then to report in or have a meeting or whatever, and those empty desks would be for those people. And but what I do think is going to happen is, again, you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. There's no way in this change that the studios are not going to cut corners where they can, because that's just human nature. And I think they will, like, no one is going to talk about the equipment fee thing, so that's going to be on you guys' pocketbooks, I guess. And I think they will try to pay people who work from home less eventually. Because if they know that
you're saving money.
Yeah. If you're saving money, you're not in California, which means if eventually, like, again, shows don't last very long on average. So every 9 months or so, you have to look for work again. Every time you do that, like, let's say you live in Nevada now and you are trying to look for your next job, that next job will know that you live in Nevada now. Can we pay you a little bit less? We'll hire you or maybe someone in Wyoming or wherever, and we'll compare your rates now.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Damn.
Because maybe in Wyoming, they live on even less. So they can be like, oh, my rate's this much. I only need this much. And then they can be like, oh, I'm going to hire this guy in Wyoming. Or maybe it won't even just be in the United States. What's stopping them from going over and to wherever that's cheaper labor?
Philippines.
Yeah. And being like, you want a storyboard? You want to design stuff?
Because they have a system in place.
Yeah.
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 Holy shit. You came up with that just now?
No, I've
you've
thought
been
about
thinking
this.
about that.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Because if people start moving everywhere, there is no way that if this is what I think is going to happen, if work from home is more permanent, I think the union's not going to really exist anymore. Because, like, with less people in the union has less power. The union doesn't have power over people in right-to-work states or people overseas, let's say, like, not in the United States. How is the union supposed to have any, it has to become like a national union or an international union. Like, that's just impossible. And what I think is going to actually happen is, even though this sounds really like doomsday, like, oh, you're going to get paid less, it's probably going to come true. I was right before. This industry can be similar to, like, the way graphic designers work, actually. And graphic designers and industries that have a lot more, like, freelancing in it, like, there's less, like, in-house graphic designers, like, in a studio employee thing. They're tough as nails, and they learn how to negotiate. They learn these business skills. And the ones that get screwed, sadly, you get screwed because of your own fault. There's no one protecting you but you. But when there's no one protecting you but you become tough as nails, and you either learn to stick up for yourself and to negotiate the things that you think you deserve, and you get those things, or it's like supply and demand. So what could end up happening is, like, if one of the pros to right to work is, like, if you do get to negotiate for yourself, you can negotiate some pretty good terms if you're really good at it. So,
and I believe that if you negotiate whatever you think is comfortable, maybe a little bit more comfortable for you, I don't think Hollywood is gonna miss that. I don't think they're gonna bitch about, like, the extra money they have to pay for you. I think they'll still save so much money.
Yeah, it'll become more like a freelancer environment.
Right.
The problem is though, like the freelancer environment is different for different disciplines. I've noticed. So like I've noticed animation artists, you guys are like the worst at freelancing. I have to say, at negotiating everything. I've seen other, like in theme parks and graphic design, they're so much better at knowing how to negotiate.
Explain. You can't just shit down my neck.
Well, because no one in animation charges an equipment fee.
Oh,
this is something graphic designers know to do. Storyboard artists in live action commercials and in general know to do. Animation people, so you guys don't know this, but a lot of studios get away with not giving you freelance rates because they make you sign a W-2, which makes you a employee. If you're freelancing for a studio, you need to be paid more. Even if your rate is the same as if you were a normal, no, you're a freelancer.
Right. Why is because you want to, like, the equipment fee. Also, freelancers are responsible for their own, like, tax stuff.
Yeah, their tax stuff, their health benefit, everything. So it's kind of weird that when you're freelancing for a studio, they don't pay you a freelance rate. I've never seen that in any other creative freelancing industry. I've only seen that in animation where you guys don't even know to do it. That's why I think, because animation artists are known to be a little bit less willing to fight for things, and they're not very good at negotiating these animation, like their rates and stuff like that. I think the studios will take as much as they can during this change. So I don't think the union is really going to exist if this becomes a thing. I don't think animation artists will have a good time at first because they're just going to let the studios walk all over them like they have been doing. I have a lot of personal feelings about the union and wages in animation. I think it's ridiculous that people used to be paid more than they do now doing the same work decades ago. Like, how does that work? But
I can't say anything or I'll get kicked out of the union.
Yeah.
And there you go.
But yeah, I think it'll be a blend. I think you're probably gonna get paid less unless you do something about it, guys. But not my problem.
Well, if you enjoy that, please let us know in the comments below and touch our bells and buttons over there. Subscribe, give a like.
Share the podcast. That's how most podcasts grow. Show other people how you like to waste your time.
Yeah. And definitely, if you feel like it, show your colleagues how much full of shit Janet is. Please, we encourage it.
Go to honeyandabsinthe.com to buy our merch and support us. I'm currently wearing the fight shirt today. And follow us on all the social medias at Honey and Absinthe. TikTok, Instagram, everywhere.
Yeah. Don't forget to
Dare to dream.